Ma'am, you can start. Ma'am, you can start. Meenakshi ma'am.
Bill?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Please start, ma'am.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's start. I first of all want to say thanks to Dr. Nasir Ali for inviting me in this FDP and giving the opportunity to connect with you all. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, so my today's topic is how we are going to do planning while online learning and what activities we need to conduct for this online learning. Before going further, I just want to share a small story with you all. There is a University Illinois, and in September 2004, the new president, Joseph White, decided to, in a 21st century, make a university in a different level. So
And
he
please raise your voice,
want to
ma'am.
establish this uh, Illinois Global Campus. So for that Illinois Global Campus, he want to convert that university into a virtual university. My voice is not audible. Give me a second. I'll just check.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, please
Fine
raise
now.
little bit.
On this new thought, they have planned so many things like how the things will go. They purchase so many computers, they purchase server, they remold the space for the work, and so many other things they have planned. And they have planned till 2018, and they were thinking till 2018 the enrollment rate of the student will be more than 70,000. And but there was some, and they even collect the revenue and sponsor, who will sponsor this global Illinois campus. So but after some time they just find it out, the council members just find it out there is something going to missing, like the way they try to collaborate with the teachers or faculty from Illinois University. There was not proper communication, and the curriculum they have decided for this global Illinois campus, that curriculum was not even the much effective. And the degrees the students were getting from that university, that degrees was somewhere was not able to recognize. So a few things were there. And in 2006 again they were rethinking on the continuing that global Illinois campus. So they have taken lots of money from sponsor, and so many things were there. And because of that, and there were one committee, they were trying to find it out the effectiveness of working of this. And this whatever they have spent it, and at the end they just find it out there are lots of loss because of the somewhere not proper collaboration. There was a big loss because of there was so hasty they have taken the decision. And in the 2008 they finally shut down that program complete university. And they have to bear a lot of loss because of that. So I shared this story because there is somewhere lacking of planning, and that planning, how that planning lacking really affects on based on that. So here now we will talk about how when we are in a virtual mode nowadays, and we want to interact with our student with the online way. So what are those things we need to think before going and interacting with them? So let's start for the today's session. Uh, my screen is visible for you all.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, visible.
Yes, visible, ma'am.
Yes.
Visible.
Is it visible?
Yes,
Yes,
visible.
madam. Yes, visible.
I think you are saying yes.
Yes,
Can
madam.
someone unmute and just say yes?
Yes,
Can
madam.
you,
Yes, madam.
It is visible, madam.
can't hear you. Might be visible and I'm clearly audible to you all. So yeah. So here, what exactly we are going to understand in this 1.5 hour. So we just want to know why this planning is important in an online mode when we are teaching in an online, when we are doing online interaction, why this planning is important. How we are going to plan for the online mode, what the things we need to take care when we are planning something on online for online learning. And the third very important factor, which learning activities make effective online learning. So in our two parts, we are trying to understand activities which we want to conduct. I'm not going to share any app for online learning. I'm not going to tell you any software. But while online learnings are happening, what the activities effectively we can use to do so. So yes, so when we are going for this online learning, we have to keep in our mind few things. Like when we are interacting with the student, might be higher education or might be any classes, we need to think on few, we can say the content element or dimension. So in first case is the content and the development, content acquisitions and development. Teaching and professional development, technology and program operational issues such as student services, and budgeting and the evaluation. Why I have mentioned the budget and evaluation, I will clear that point too. The first point which I'm talking about, the content acquisitions. Now from last 1.5 years, we are going through with this online mode, and through that we have seen the restructuring somewhere the timetable and the many things are happening, and because of that the mode of exams even change, and for that mode of exam is a change. There are lots of restructuring of our this the timetable will happen. So in that case, what the content which we feel is very important, and how we can develop those content in form of a PPT or in form of a different videos, in form of a audio podcast, anyways, how we can develop that, we need to think on that. The second point is teaching and professional development. All of a sudden went from 22nd or 25th of March 2020, when the lockdown has declared nationwide. In that case, when the teachers role switch from the face-to-face to online mode, then it was quite difficult to use this platform for an interaction with the student. So what the professional developmental uh, this the skills the teachers were having, like today we are trying to understand, because here again the last week UGC declared this many percent blended, this many percent of this way of learning is going to happen, and for that we need to skilled ourselves, that for that we need to prepare ourselves. So for the teachings, how this professional development is going to help us. And the teachers, last year you have seen so many online programs happened, and they were even given the lots of certificates for that too. So that is, they have given a different kind of we can say the perspective towards the online learning technology. What technology we are going to use, like for the students, if the students in a rural areas, which technology we are going to use. And it's definitely based on the budget of the students and the teachers both. So when we are talking about the online learning, it's basically about the blended learning. It's basically based on the hybrid learning. It's basically based on the virtual classrooms and schools, and it's basically about the cyber schools. So when we are in this virtual world, when we are in this online mode, so these are the two options through that we can start communicating with our student. First is the synchronous and second is the asynchronous. These are the only thing. So when we are planning something, when we want to connect with them, so what will be the way, what for which content I will go with the synchronous, and for which content I will take this help of asynchronous kind of a mode. So while programming, I want to plan something for my student, like for a B.Ed, M.Ed, even for the MPhil and PhD coursework. So how I'm going to do that? So if I'm going to, if this thought is there in my mind, so in that case, how I'm using this program, how I'm distinguishing this online learning programs in form of a gender wise, in form of a area wise, in form of a demographic area wise, in form of the cultural aspects. So before planning anything, I need to think on that. Then how do other program plans to make this learning more effective, and what will be the prioritization for that. Then how what the planning strategies we are going to use, and how we track the impact of our planning strategies to ensure effectiveness. So here I just want to introduce one small concept, that is a metacognition. If might be you have heard about that. So here when we are talking about the metacognition basically, as per the Anne Brown, she classified this in two ways, like the knowledge about the cognition and regulation about the cognition. So knowledge about the cognition, she focus on the three different level of cognition, how we are going to procedure, how we are going to declare, and how we are going to um, um, understand, or what the way, the what knowledge we want to impart among our student. That happened, and then after that, like from 1 year we have done that process. But in the next step, when we regulate these things, in that case we need to go back again, recheck our planning. Then we need to, along after planning, we need to work on the monitoring too. Like when the planning is already done and we start doing our program, we start delivering our classes, we need to monitor those many things. Because when I deliver online classes, student never switch on their cameras, they never switch on, they unmute themselves. So many times we will say, oh, please say something, we will call by name, even still they will not ready to switch on their mic. So what the things we need to do that. So when we are doing planning, after the planning, when we are delivering the lectures in the classroom, we need to monitor few things, and based on them, the last step is a self evaluation. It's very important things when we are interacting this thing with the student. So we need to check the effectiveness. It's not, we are not only checking the effectiveness through their exams, which we are many times trying to do it in form of a face-to-face mode interaction. But when we are interacting on an online mode, there is no eye contact, there is no, we can't see the facial expression, there is no social touch. So in that case, how we can see the impact of our teaching. So, or impact of our strong planning, or whatever I have learned in so many professional development programs. So I need to check that the effectiveness of my work or my plan. So for that, even the self evaluation, self reflection is going to help us. But along with that, there are so many other things which we are going to discuss, and we will make more effective in that context. So specifically, if we are talking about the Indian context, in Indian context, there is a, we can find it out that lots of programs came last year. Even this year there are lots of changes came in form of a university level, in form of a many private universities and other level, in a college level even, they try to make a lots of changes. But there is some gaps we can find it out because of the economical resources and the resources which are there in our country. So before even pandemic, the virtual learning was even only for the theoretical part. We never experienced that part. But all of a sudden we switch on a practical mode of a virtual learning. So how we are going to identify the schools or the community resources before planning? We need to think on that. We need to even specify the gap between the existing resources and prioritizations. So what is our priorities? We want to connect with the student with a different mode, or we want to just deliver the content to them. So we can just create a Google Classroom in which we can add all the students and we can just share the readings with them. That is even the one of the asynchronous mode. But how I can make my class more interactive, more effective with with the synchronous way. So can this online learning serve those gaps? Before planning, we need to think on that. Otherwise, it will happen like a global Illinois campus. So when we are talking about that, we have to think on this few points, like how we are communicating with our content. For that, what instructional design we are going to use? Like in the class, we were using a discussion mode. We were using the technology, Blackboard mode. But how this going to happen? Like last year, when my students started interacting in form of a B.Ed, and they were saying, "Ma'am, in a mathematics, it's quite difficult because we need to write lots of things. It's really impossible to interact on online mode when we are teaching and telling something in form of a stepwise. So it's really difficult. I can't do it with the Jamboard, even with the whiteboard, and so many other boards are there. But it's quite difficult to interact with them when I'm explaining some chemical reactions or any theoretical aspects from physics, or when I want to balance the reactions. In that case, when I'm using the Blackboard, it's very easy, and it's very even easy for us to the more the thing the way we want. But when we are in this online mode here, we need to think on the that aspects when we are doing our instructional design. So what instructional design we need to use over here? So when we are talking about the learning, there are lots of psychologists, lots of people like Piaget saying, by first you have to, it's a depend on your cognitive development and how we are creating the environment in the classroom, and through that they will start doing their own cognitive development. Or as per the Vygotsky saying, you have to go tell them in form of in other tiers, students are learning most of the things in a social context. So how come we are design our instruction, and through that they will really understand with the this way? Or the Brunner says, or the Albert Bandura says, the students are learning in a social interaction. Students observe first and then they imitate. So how that is going to happen? For that, what instruction design we need to plan? For that, my the B.Ed student, what he had done, he had developed his own app. It's not an app in form of a software, but with the pen, and he used some rubbers, and he used some other the support system to that, and with the help of that, then he start drawing the things, or writing the theorems, or writing the steps of mathematics on the paper. So that way he try to find it out some new way of instructional design. So there are so many ways the student creatively, even the teachers need to creatively think how we can mold our instruction design, and so that it should not only the teacher centered, because if you are seeing in an online mode of teaching, the teachers are talking for a long hours, but students are just listening. So how we are doing that interaction? For that we need to plan a lot. Student assessment nowadays, it's a big question in front of the lots many universities, the open book exams, or the different ways they are just finding out the for the assessment, because before the without that they can't go ahead. So you have seen what the things happen with the CBSE. So this is even the one of the big question in front of us. So what exactly we are going to use, what the way we are going to use for the student assessment? So if we are using for the interacting with the student in a Google Classroom, the platform we are using a Google Classroom. So in the Google Classroom, there is the assignment. So how we can collect the assignment, how we can check those assignment, how we can give the due date for that, how we can give use a rubric if we are using a rating scale kind of thing. So for that we need to think a lot, and that is only because happening because of the technology. So technology before online interaction, technology, it's not the only technology, the laptops and the software which we are using, and hardware we are using to interact with them. But what else we can use in form of a technology, in form of a different apps? We need to think on that. And this is self-reflection or the evaluation we need to do. We need to use the scaffolding, and through that we can evaluate our student in a many ways. So this is self-evaluation is not only for the teachers, but for the students even. After interacting with them, we need to plan even for that, how we are giving a opportunity to do this self-evaluation and self-reflection. And in that case, if they need, if we are designing a small few questionnaire for the self-reflection, and in that if we are adding one point, I need to take a help from my peer, I need to take a help from my teachers, I need to take a help from my parents, so, or any other person around us. So how we are using the scaffolding in this planning schedule, through that they can even opt that. So that is important, very important in that case. So when we are talking about this online learning activities, I am directly jumping on that, because here we need to lots of things to talk on this, because that's very important aspects along with the planning. So when we are talking about the plannings, we need to revisit, replan so many times. We need to do the think aloud strategies when we are planning something. And then only whatever the activities we are planning for the students, we need to check it out by own, and then only we can use it to make more effective for our students too. So how we can do that, how we can, and for that we need to search a lot, we need to explore a lot in that case. So when we are talking about the constructivist approach in a case of learning, so how we can use that constructivist approach while online learning mode. So in form of a constructivist approach, what the things, whatever the things around us, whatever the sources available around us, how we can take a use of that, and we can go for the exact online learning and teaching. So there are few lists for the activities like a drag and drop. So for that there are different websites available. This is a simple exercise which we can use in the initial case when we introduce any topics and we want to engage the students in our content, and for that we can give the different options in front of them. And for when we are giving the introduction, we can make them to come on the same platform. So for that we can use a different pictures, and from that we can just tell them odd man out or classify in a same ways. So in that case they can we can use this website for through that they can use this drag and drop. And the second thing, the library search, in which our students are in a higher educator. So in that case many times when we feel it's our responsibility, it's only our responsibility, we have to give a lots of information to them. Of course it's our responsibility, but along with that if we will give some kind of exposures to them, so definitely they even enjoy so many other things. Like in a library search, we can make a group of our students. Like from last year we are aware about the students who are good in what. So based on that we can make a group of students, and we can give some websites to them or some URL to them, and through that they can search the content for your particular topic. For example, if we are talking about some pedagogy, like we are talking about the pedagogical content knowledge. So for the particular pedagogy, for example, for mathematics pedagogical pedagogy, how I'm going to do my effective mathematic teaching in the particular group of the students. So for that, how I'm combine this pedagogical content knowledge with the technology. Nowadays the technology is very important. So if we are making a group of the students, how they are exploring those things, how they can read so many things, and through that they can understand the things. Like even while um, preparing this task when I want to interact with you all. So that time I read few books, in which one book was a lesson from the cyberspace classroom. How in that they talk about rethinking education, how we can convert our classroom to knowledge room. So for that we can give the exposure to the student, and students are more techno savvy, so they can utilize their that passion, their energy in that kind of exploration. The scavenger hunt, scavenger hunt, even somewhere like that. If we are allotting some topics to them, and we are just telling them to uh, search few things about that in more detail. So that is nothing but the scavenger hunt. And for that we need to give a proper ideas, because when they will open the Google or some other search engines, there is ocean of information. But how they will go in a stepwise way, we have to train initially to them with the help of think loud strategies, with the help of some other strategies. When you are searching something along with them, like in a scavenger hunt, if we are searching something about some aspects like about the coronavirus, and what is the impact of coronavirus in the global level, everyone knows. But in specifically in form of a teacher education, we want to see how the teacher education is happening in Great Britain, or how it's happening in Rwanda, South Africa, or any other places all over the globe. So for that they can just search on the psychological impact of this coronavirus on the teaching profession. So that searching we can just give or provide few sites to them, and based on that they can do this hunting. The next is syllabus quiz. Before starting content, we can go with the syllabus quiz, because students are, if they are the first year students, so before this 2015, there was a content test. And in that content test, the students, we were checking the students' content knowledge. So when we are complete first semester, or we are going on the second semester, or just the student entering the first semester, we need to check their understanding about this the syllabus. So based on the syllabus quiz, we can make them activate to learn more or to understand more about the content. The next is snowball. So in the snowball, we can talk about the, we can create the activities in which we can add a student with the same interest. For example, if we are just talking about the coronavirus, in which what is the impact of the coronavirus geographically or demographically or the psychologically, sociologically, or in form of a in form of a science, in a form of a innovation, um, uh, in a subject of science, even the nature every day coming with so many different articles based on this particular concept. So in this snowball, we have to just based on the student interest, like some student have a interest in a psychological impact because of the this coronavirus on the students or parents or the teaching community or complete on a education system. So on based on that interest, we can make a group, and that group will talk or think, or you will give a time to prepare them or study them or they explore them more on that particular part. So that way you can just use this snowball technique, and through that they can add their views based on their interest and add a like a cooperative way of learning. So think pair and share kind of things, like we are making a groups and in then with the same interest, and then they are sharing the things, might be in iChat, might be there are the chat rooms for the students, there are the different room where they go and discuss and they come back and share their views with the all the complete classroom. So that way the snowball is really effective and it's work. I'm not sharing only the things, I'm even using that. The sixth is the peer participant activities. When we are it's a the peer learning, when we are talking about the peer learning, it's not possible, but it's of course it's possible, because through this we can give the social touch to them. Like in our when I'm teaching the in a MEd, I'm taking care of learning and permission, and in that aspects I just for a one theory I just divide that theory among the students, like what is the epistemological background of that theory, what is the what how the learner will be there in that theory, how the learning process is going to happen in that theory. So with the different parts, just allot the things to the students, they will prepare, and it's not just that they are going to prepare, but in that preparation you have to do the lots of scaffolding, you have to be a part in that preparation, and then they will interact among themselves, because they are not masters, they don't know from where they will get a more information about that, and they will get a confused, and definitely they will come to you and they will say, "Oh, ma'am, we are not getting anything, we are getting so many information, but we are not understanding which is the right information and which information, because here we want to share with the students, so how we are going to share them? When we are sharing in asynchronous way, we have a limitation, so what exactly we have to uh, keep, and we have to omit. So for that then the teacher is a very important aspect. So as a facilitator, we need to work with them, we need to be with them at each and every stage of their preparation. The next is the reflective activities. Just now I said, when we are planning something, we need to reflect. Like whatever we are doing, like we are doing syllabus quiz, we are doing snowball activity, we are doing peer participation, we are doing any kind of discussion, we are doing the arguments with the classroom. But after that, this reflection is very important, because through that we can understand so many things. So for that, we can just make them to write the reflective diaries, because we want to make them active. So they will just write it down. What are their strengths? What is their weaknesses? What they have understand? What they have not understand at all? And they are not going to share that reflective journals with the class complete in front of the complete classroom, but they can individually share those things with you. So for that, we need to spend a lot of time. So this is when we are doing this online mode of interaction, there we need to have a lots of patience. We need to have a lots of creative ideas, and we need to have a lots of preparation, and every time the compassion even for the students. So then only we can convey the right message with our student. So that's very important. So when we are talking about this effective effective reflective activities, we need to use some checklist when we are doing that with the students, or students are by own they are doing some reflective activities. So in that case, we need to use some checklist, and we need to work on that first. We need to think on that first. We need to make that checklist. We need to check that checklist with us first, because even we are doing the lots of reflection, and based on that we are replan the things. Based on that, we again the start monitoring our all the activities. We want to debriefing the so many things. So how we are doing that reflective checklist? For that, there are I try to just prepare few items based on yes, no, and the comment. So when we are sharing this with the student, sometimes they don't want to say yes or no, because this is quite easy to say yes or say no. But when we are putting in form of a really reflection, so there they will write their comments. So we need to give a chance to share their comments on the same task. So there are some items like, does the activity ask for synthesis of the learning experiences? Does it require the learner to share his or her experiences, or the teachers are only just talking? What exactly this activities help you, or how that activity make you feel? So does it allow for the honest and open responses? Many times for the, they just want to, the student want to come in a good book of teachers, and we can even find it out that, but are they really giving the honest and open responses? Like if we are saying something and the student will say, no ma'am, we are not agree with you whatever you are saying, or we are not understanding the way you talk, your speed is very high, your speed is very fast, or the way you are sharing, we are not understanding. Whatever the readings you are given, it's too big, and it's very difficult to read it through mobile. So can you just share something else, and through that it's form of a videos, in form of a podcast, so we can listen, because it's very difficult to read all the things on a mobile, or all the things on a laptop. So if with this reflection, they can give the honest and open responses. They are understanding half thing, they are not understanding the remaining things. Whatever the way they want to share, definitely they can share their actual honest response with this reflective activities. So is the activity insightful or not reflecting? So that insightful is very important. What insight we are developing? Like when we are creating some activities on an online mode, we have to give a chance to even, that's what the reflection we want to take, what insight they have developed. When we are sharing some podcast, when we are sharing some stories, when we are sharing some images, or when we are sharing some videos. For example, I want to teach about the Piaget's theories, and I am just sharing the Piaget to Piaget video. It is around more than 40 minutes video, and in which Piaget itself talking about about the genetic epistemology. So if I'm sharing that genetic epistemology, in when they are reading this thing in a Driscoll book, Mercy Driscoll book, it's quite difficult to understand them. But when they watch that video, Piaget to Piaget, in which Piaget is talking about the genetic epistemology, he's not much talking about the stages, but he's much talking about the genetic epistemology, in which how we are developing the insight. Is that only the assimilation? Is it only about an equilibrium and disequilibrium? What more than that? And that activity should not be non-threatening, like this is the activity and based on this you are going to evaluate, so yeah, you have to give your 100%. So then will find it out the different shortcuts or some malpractices. But if you are giving the freedoms to do those activities on an online mode, definitely will get the honest and the real response from the student. Does it require the person to be the imaginative or the express the genuine emotions or openness? So many times in the case of divergent thinking, we are doing some discussion on some topics like how it's possible in online mode that they have given the long back, might be 100 years back, the social theory has given by Talcott Parson. So is that Talcott Parson theory or Emile Durkheim theory is applicable even this 21st century in the 2021? So how it is imaginative, how that this the expressions or the emotions come from them is really the original, it's a creative emotions, so that will come only through the reflective activities. Then does it require the learner to provide a helpful feedback that will be useful to the instructor in the future course development? Yes, because here we have not stopped the things, we have, it's a like a cycle. That's what I said, it's a planning, then monitoring, remonitoring, evaluating, reevaluating. That this is a iterative process in which again and again the same things are happening with a lots of modifications. So last year we have a lots of experience when we are interacting with the classroom, when we send our student for the school observation or for their school experience program, the way we were teaching for the internship, and from that we have come to know their the how they are interacting with in their classrooms. There is a how the limitations were there, how the limitations of the teachers even were there, they were not directly connected with the school students. So as a teacher educator, what will be the our role, what the platform we can provide them, through that they can really learn about the things which they were learning in a face-to-face internship programs, because here lots of limitations are there. They won't able to go and see the how the attendance the teachers are taking, or the how the assembly is happening, how the students are celebrating the different scholastic and non-scholastic activities, how the exams happening, and what the expressions are there when students are giving the exams and we are supervising. So for that, there are lots of the planning needed, and based on that planning, when we are creating some activities, we are developing some activities, based on that we need to take a feedback. So last year students, they just completed their B.Ed or M.Ed program. Based on their experiences, we can reschedule, we can replan this year activity. So for that, this reflective activities are really useful. There is very important aspects, because we are dealing with the higher education, we need to use this critical kind of a insight. We don't want to just use it for our student, but we want to develop the students so that they can use that part in their future too, because if they can able to do the critically analyze something, they can see the pedagogy, they can see both the pros and cons of the curriculum or the pedagogy they are using in interacting when they are interacting with the students. So for that, we need to develop this critical insight. So how we are going to develop this is some steps through that we can develop, like we are selecting some kind of activity for them, like when we are especially talking about the education or any social sciences subject. So in that case, that subject might be somewhere relevant with the things which is happening around us. So how that topic any topic like for the secondary school or the exams form like a CBSE this exams conduction issue. So we can take that topic, and then based on that topic, what we can search on the newspaper, what the journals are talking about that, what are the other periodic are talking about that, what the experts view on that. There are so many other ways. On a website we can see how in other country are they declare the 0 years, or how they conduct this the examination activity. For that you can just give the web link or some websites to them, so they can explore in a many ways, and they come out with some very good ideas. Like last year UNESCO even start working on many things, like on a 15 July they declared the youth days. On that day they given the lots of idea about how this when we are going for the field work, but it is not possible in this online mode. So what will be the different solution for that, what will be the different options for that. So through this different options, through this different exposure, the students even start working on that, and they start thinking critically, find out, because when they will approach those things and they find it out, that is only possible in a developed countries, that is not possible in my rural areas. So what modification I can do? Last year I have done one small work with the Rwanda students, and they were not aware about any kind of things like in a when we are talking about a tribal area like in India, they are aware about a smartphone, but in a rural areas, sorry, in a Rwanda, they are not at all. There are some group of students who are not at all aware about this smartphone. So how the government of that that country start interacting with the student in a few 6 months, they were not at all connected with the school and the there is no connection between the school and the student, but slowly gradually through radio they are start giving the information to the student. There are lots of NGOs come up, and there were few NGOs already active in that areas. They start working on that. So how we can use that activities in our rural areas too, like even for the in India, if we have the students who have learning disabilities, we have students, those are having a visual impairment. So for them, how we are developing this learning activities on an online mode. So for that we have to just throw this idea among the students, and based on that, is there any information they can read on a newspaper or journal or any periodic or any from anywhere in form of a different website, and based on that how they are describing those things, how they can debriefing those things, we have to give a chance even for that. So through that they can just come out with a few ideas, and then they will post those things in a assignment summary in your Google Classroom, or might be your if you are using some other mode of interaction. In that case, if you are preparing some discussion board or any chat room, they can display those if they have a many question. If they are not coming out with any kind of any solution, that is even fine, but they should think on that. So if they will think, either they will come out with a few solutions, or they will come out with a so many more questions. So whatever they will come out, or we can interact with them, and that way we can make them active. And the written material, then we can think how they have tried to create those things in a critically. I'm just specifying the grammar and spelling for the student who are in a for the languages, they are belonging from the language side, or somewhere other mode of when they are interacting. Nowadays there are lots of virtual visits are happening when we are interacting with them, like we for the first year student, we are not sending them the school, we have a field observation. So this year we don't have that field observation, so we have given the some virtual visits, like the France, some museums from the France, some museums from Italy, from museum from Delhi, the craft museum from Delhi, then science exhibitions which are happening on a virtual modes in all over the world, and especially in India. So through that, they are getting a chance to think. They can get and it's not just a visit on those sites, do virtual visits, and they will come back, and they will enjoy, or they will share their experiences. But along with that, there is a 2 3 higher order questions, and based on that, they can we are giving a exposure to their critical thinking, and through that they can discuss among themselves, they can explore more on that, they can just talk on the talk with the people, they can write the email, they can ask the questions, and they can come out with some or other solution. And there are some different activities along with that, like we started doing this authentic activities. All our activities are authentic, but when we are interacting with the students, and basically we get the authentic information. So for that, we arrange few authentic activity for the student, like there are few people from the experts from the different areas like IITs. There are people from the Indian Institute of Science. There are people who are experts in the history and the social sciences. We organize their interviews, we organize their talks, we organize their discussion with them. So through that, we can got a lots of authentic activity. Like 2 weeks back, we invite Romela Thapar, who is a great historian. She have given a lots of contribution in the area of history. We called few people from social sciences of IITs, and they interact with us about when we are interacting with the classroom. So what the thinking process are happening for the teachers and even for the student. So we were talking about the thinking along with the thinking. So thinking of the teachers when they are interacting with the class, and the thinking of the students. So it was a discussion mode. There was a dialogue between the students and that expert who came from the IIT, and we try to interact among themselves. And especially when we interact with the Romela Thapar, we collect the question from the student, what the question we want to ask for Romela Thapar. So they have given the ample questions based on their exposure. They were saying how this things, how we can teach the history in the classroom. If these are the things, these are the some misconceptions are there about the science. So how historically we can do the modification. So many questions came, and that way we did this activity. So that's the authentic activity. But along with that authentic activity, we prepared some checklist. Is that the activity is authentic or not? Does it require the learner to work collaboratively and use their experiences as a starting point? Are the learner allowed to learn from the mistakes? Because when we ask, when we told our students to please give a question, because Romela Thapar was a condition, like she said, if I'm not going to give a lecture, if there are the question, I will answer for that, like of Plato and Socrates, the philosophers were doing. So we got the questions, and we communicate this thing with the student, and we got few questions, and those question was not actually the question. So we have given few examples to them, and then they again redevelop that question. So are the learner allowed to learn from the mistakes? Yes, we need to do that. So then only they can think, and they can modify the question, and they can recorrect whatever they want to say. And from that, we really got the and we did that activity, start that activity 1 week, not 1 week, 1 month back. So we got an ample time to recheck their questions again and again, and give a times to even to the students, so they can even think on that, and they can interact with among themselves, or these teachers who are dealing with the history of India and the other part of the world, and based on that they frame the question. So the here we need to allow the student to learn from the mistake too, and we specifically keep few questions like where there was a mistake, and so she only said, no, this is not a question, it's not come in a the historical concept. You can just mold the question like this. So that way we have given a chance. It's not that all the things are happening in a goody goody base. Here we have the students done lots of mistakes. They have there was a chance to rectify those mistakes too, because when we are interacting with the higher authority, when we are conducting some interview of the people, so that case we need a structured kind of an interaction, we need a structured kind of a discussion, we need a structured kind of a classroom dialogue. So in that case, how we are doing that? So always it's not happening. Sometimes there are mistakes happen from our side, sometimes it's a mistakes happen from the student side. So how we are learning from that? So does the activities have the value beyond the learning setting? So what values we are getting when we are interacting with the Romila Thapar or the other dignitaries we called, and they interact with the students? Like there are few NGOs who are working for the rural areas, and they especially working on the readings. So how the readings happening for the in the school level? So there are some international NGOs even working on that. So how we are creating the values based on that activities, because here the authentic activities we are talking about. So what values we want to imbibe among our students? So when we call that fellow from IIT, and we are talking about the thinking. So how we are thinking when we are entering in the class? We are just thinking about our teaching, and we are just thinking about how we are completing the this kind of a portion. But are we thinking about the values we want to impacting or we want to imbibing among the students? So what values we want to imbibing among the student? Because the students come with so many questions, like when we call any the person from the media background, so they will say, so these are the things the people are journalists are writing about the India, these are the news coming from China, they are saying this, they are saying that. So what is the right way? So how we can give the right direction to their thinking? So these are the activities through that we can really give that flow, or we can give the proper direction to the towards their thought process, and through that we can really imbibe the values among the students. Next is, does the activity build a skill that can use beyond the life of the course? So is that those activities the only useful for the only the classroom interaction, or they can use that activities, or whatever the interaction happened with the Romila Thapar or other peoples, how that interaction is really helpful for their the life event, for the future life event. Like from my department, there are many dignitaries like Krishna Kumar sir, there is Poonam Batra ma'am. There are many people who have done a lots of, they have given a lots of contribution in the education. There are people who are work on the gender areas, or the people who are especially work on the inclusion areas. There are the people who are specifically work on the particular way of the pedagogy. So from that we can not only those learning we are using in a classroom interaction, but how we can use it those things in a when we are interacting on a in our day-to-day life too. So do learners have the way to implement their outcomes in a meaningful way? Yeah, so that's what this activity, this authentic activity we are conducting with the students. So how this meaningful way the outcomes come, how we are going to implement those things? And for that we have to give a the comment box for that, and they can give their comment in that case. In that authentic activities, I just list few authentic activities like a case studies. I want to see the case study of particular universities, like special few universities who are doing their interaction on online mode from long back, or there are people who are writing lots of books on online learning. So how we can do the case study, or we want to just understand someone, so through the case study, through celebrity chart, through cross regional discussion. For example, the culturally there are lots of differences, like even now if we are talking about the Hoshangabad, so how the science is teaching in Hoshangabad. Like if I'm talking about the Banasali University, where they were not allowing the girls to carry mobile along with them, but now how that those girls are sitting at their home and doing their online learning. So this cross regional discussion help us to understand in a different cultural mode or in a different cultural aspects how the discussions happening. Like in our class, even the students are from the different area. My students are from Kerala, students are from the Jharkhand, some students are from Kashmir, some students are from Dalit cell. So when we are talking on the same aspects like learning, so in a different this cultural aspects, or the in a different region, the learning is a different way. So this authentic activity help us to understand that aspects when we are doing this cross regional discussion, when we interact with the people with the different culture. So when I talk with the people who are basically from the rural Maharashtra, the basically from the postbard area of the tribal area from the Maharashtra, Thane especially. So how they are trying to interact, how they are trying to modify the things in the online mode. So and are they really getting the success in that or not? So that thing we come to know when we did this cross regional discussion. Team problem solving, it's always happening when we are always talking about lots of problem but not actually solving. So this is the online mode where we have a ample experience or ample opportunity or the golden experience. Through that we can get a lots of the versatile solution for the same problem. So in that case, we can make a team. They can make a team. They can collaborate. They can do the snow ball kind of impact. They can even interact with the globally. They can interact with the nationally, and then they can find out the solution. Last year, I have done one international conference in which what I try to did in this regard. I call the students from the PhD and the MPhil background, and few students from the MA dissertation, from especially from the second year student who have doing their MA dissertation. So with the Davos group, like there were some students who were from North India, somewhere from the Eastern, Western, and the South India. And when they came together, along with that, I just allowed one mentors, like from the different institutions even. For example, the mentors were from Bhubaneswar, Arai. There is a mentor from Kerala University, Central University. There was a mentor from our institute. There is a mentor from Punjab University. There is a one mentor from the State University. So the diverse group of a student and a diverse group of the mentor come along together, and they try to work on a particular problem. Like in a research, there are so many things happen, like how classroom interaction happen, how the pedagogy, pedagogy we need to use, how we are conceptualize our knowledge with the students, or how the student conceptualize the knowledge. So the group started working among themselves. Yeah, and one person from Homi Baba Science Center. So this mentor interact the diverse group of the student, and they try to solve the problem. And then one day, after on a particular day, they present their way, their ideas, their thoughts. So that way I have completed my international conference in a collaboration way. So the collaboration between the student, the collaboration among the different cultural institution, and based on that, we try to solve the problem on an online mode of interaction. So that way we can make a team, and it's really interactive. And student initially they will not giving a proper reply, but if you will, the mentor is somewhere someone different, or the group of students is a heterogeneous, so definitely you will get the really very interesting kind of the result. You will definitely get an interesting kind of a solution for that. And I really experienced that, and the students even enjoy, and the different culture mentors even they really enjoyed. The feedback was really good. So based on that experience, I would suggest the authentic activity really work. And the pyramid in the case pyramid, like a, if we start something like any kind of things like interaction with the classroom on an online mode. So how that going in a narrow down, how we want to specify, like here we are talking about the online mode interaction activities. So here online mode activities, then on the second stage, I will talk about only the mathematics or specifically on the science. You know, mathematics or the science, I'm specifically talking about the physics. In the physics, even I'm talking about the in a particular way of the interaction. Even in that, so that way, how I am narrow down the things. So when I'm talking about the authentic activities, so through the expert dialogue, how we can narrow down our things, so that way we can build the pyramids. So social responsibility, when we are conducting this authentic activities, it's a social responsibility. We are not just to kind of collect this authentic activities, but we are just somewhere try to publish those authentic activities, and in form of a social response we are trying to do it and interacting. So that's what it's a more authentic. So as a social responsibility, we can call the person from our side. For example, I'm doing one project on a cyberbullying. So in that case, there are people who already work on this area. There are people internationally who are work in this area prior. There are people who wrote lots many books in this area, and nowadays when we are interacting on this online mode, there is a lots of this cyberbullying is happening. We are not aware much about on that. So as a social responsibility, when we are called a few expert, like the person from Pawan Nuggal, like he's a lawyer in a cyberbullying and a cyber crime and cyber the case is happening in a, and he is handling so many things. Or Shireen Sharif, who wrote the books on law, so many books on cyberbullying. So as a social responsibility, even if we are giving this responsibility to our students, so definitely they will work a lot and they will come out with so many good kind of activities and value-based activities. Of course, the value-based activities. So these are the some authentic activities which we can do with them. And many times we are for the when we are interacting with our students, we are using different games. Nowadays there are we by a grace of artificial intelligence, there are lots of games and simulation we can create among themselves. But when we are creating those, we need to check. It's many times as a teacher, we are using lots of enthusiastically, we are using lots of games or simulation, but we are not using the effectiveness of those. So for that, we need to create the checklist. Like, is the student directly involved in making decision and learning from the outcomes? Like if I'm creating some simulation, like I'm taking my student to visit the art gallery from Paris. So in that case, what does learning outcomes come? So what the decision making decisions comes from that? Or does the activity enable explore the complex nature of the real world? So is it the really effective, the simulation I'm creating in front of them? Like I'm creating a simulation in front of them, like a science exhibition, but is that really the activity giving the exposure to the equal to the real world or not? Does the game include the tasks that provide the element of engagement, decision making, knowledge acquisitions, or otherwise it's a there is no use. So it's a big responsibility on ourselves when we are creating any learning activities on an online mode. So that learning activities is not just a learning activities, but through that learning activities, are we really engage our student or not? Because many times when we are interacting with the student, we have find it out they are just again the same thing. I'm going to repeat. They will just keep the mobile somewhere. It's happened with us even when we conduct one class and it was afternoon class after break. Like the scholars had their lunch and after that the class was there. Thank God this class is not like that. So in that class, after that activity, we just say bye and thank you. But there were so few students who were elements on the online. Means they were in the class. We were saying you can leave the class. You can leave the class. Well, the thing is, if you want to ask something, you can ask. Otherwise, you can leave the class. The student were not to leave the class for the next 15 minutes. And when we asked afterwards, they were saying, "Ma'am, नींद लग गया था." So that is quite obvious when the continuous someone is talking, definitely we even feel like to sleep. So how through game we are engaging, we are really giving the chance or giving the opportunity to do the decision making or not, and how that games or simulation is based on the knowledge acquisitions. Every time we are not going to check them, we are not going to ask them, but how effectively they are constructing the knowledge through the games or that stimulation. So that's what we use the critically insight, or we use this discussion after completing this activities too. Does the simulation activities require students to role play or to assume a new perspective? So even in the role play, what will be the our role if we are saying this is happening in China? So what will be the, if someone is a prime minister from China, someone is from some developed country, so how we will react? Or what if we will give this some role to them? So through that role, they will, it will be the responsibility of that role, and they will whatever the things will come from them, it will be based on that role. So it's just not the only the activity, we just not only the interacting with them, but along with that there are so many things uh, in their brains are happening. It's not the just inputting and the process happening and the outcomes come, but it's even more than that. It is more than that in form of their how they develop their knowledge in that aspect. That is even important. So while preparing this, I was reading one book. That book was the name of that book was Deep Learning for the Digital Age: Technology and Tech Potential to Enrich Higher Education. So when I was going through with that book, or I was going through with the book Online Classroom Dynamics, or the lesson learned in the cyberspace classroom, they have given a lots of experiences when we are interacting in a online mode, how exactly we need to work before interacting on an online mode. So that was there. So here now the time for the question and answer. We have a ample time. Almost we have a next 20 minutes. If you have any question, please you can ask the question, or you can write down your question on a chat box. Nasir Ali sir can read those questions and I will try to give the answer for that.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Participants, you may use microphone or chat box for asking queries. If you are having any other points which are
No,
not
but I
discussed
am
here,
able
you
to hear you.
yeah.
Hello.
Any queries? If you are having any points to add with what ma'am has discussed, that can also be done here.
I can't hear a single thing.
Yeah, it's free for discussion.
Yes. Now it's audible. Yeah.
It's open for discussion, please.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, I asked one question. These checklists are subjective, basically.
Yeah.
But how can we assess these checklists?
So, see, like what learning outcomes you want. So, what is your objective behind to build those checklists? It's even depend on that, and what exactly you are expecting from that answer. Like, for example, I will just go back on one checklist, like this checklist for the effective game or a simulation. So, what was my objective behind to conduct the game in the classroom, or what was my objective behind to just do the simulative activities in the classroom. So, of course, it is based on the way or for what purpose or for which content you are developing this simulative activities, and it will be based on that. Like your checklist will be actually based on that. I just prepared the checklist based on what was my understanding. I just took some support from some books, and based on that I developed this. But based on your own learning outcomes, what exactly you are expecting after completing any kind of learning activities, what exactly you are expecting from the student side, so you can develop items based on that. And for the checklist in form of the answer, like this is even for the student and even for you, like does the activity enable explore the complex nature of the real world. So through that your simulation is that they are really experience those things in a virtual mode, even like the real world. So if they are saying yes or no, or they will give a comment, from that comment and or from the no, even we can find it out, and you can just make a correction or modify the activities, and you can again uh, deliver to them. I hope I try to
Okay,
answer.
thanks, ma'am. Because sometimes we also give the stimulus in front of the student, and they can respond very actively and very involved in the classroom teaching. Because online we also interact with each other.
Yeah.
Because saying, pairing, and sharing it is also the base of that content, I think.
Yes. Any other question?
Any other question?
I have given my email address on this PPT.
In the chat box also you can give, ma'am.
Yeah, I will write on the chat box.
There is one question in the chat box, ma'am, by Pradeep Kumar Shetty, sir.
That's simulation and checklist. So how can we stimulate through that checklist?
Checklist is not for the simulation. The checklist is for how effectively we have used the game or simulation. That for that purpose we are using. Yes, but in the previous slide we can say, like if we are doing some activities like authentic activities, and through that authentic activities we are trying to simulate them for something. So definitely that checklist even useful for that. Like through that checklist we can come to know how effectively we try to engage our student in a classroom, or how the decisions came from them, or whatever the activity we have conducted in form of a game or in form of other kind of activity. So how effectively it's worked. So through that checklist we can check that. So this checklist is for that. So it's depend on your simulation, the way you want to simulate. You want to do the role play in the classroom, so you can just check. So in that particular role, how you feel, or in that particular role, what the decision you have taken. As a real person, you won't able to take, but on if you are going in that particular role, how you switch your role, and how you switch your thought process, and how you switch your decision even when we are in that particular role. So this is this checklist to check the effectiveness of the our learning activities. I hope I clear.
Ma'am, there is a question in the chat box by Pradeep Kumar. What is the effective game plan or simulation success rate or improvement in students? What is the effective game plan or simulation?
Game
Yeah.
plan or simulation. Okay, so effective rate is so high because we have done this in our institution in form of a simulation, like a simulation in form of the visits, the virtual visits in a many websites, and through that websites they have explored the different places, like exhibitions. They explore the craft museum, they explore the view this uh, different places of the different world. They explore the websites like NCRT, especially NCRT. We started with the NCRT website. We started with the NUPA website. So how they are contributing in education. So that way, the their real work, they were just reading those works in form of their teacher education. When they are reading about NCRT, when they are reading about the NUPA and other UGC and other the different national organization. But through that visit, through that simulation, it's difficult to visit the NCRT building and explain them this way the things are happening. But virtually, when we try to visit the NCRT, and then they come to know the objective behind that NCRT, then objectives, the mission, vision behind the NCRT, and in the this even the virtual world, how they are working on effectively on this world. So through that simulation, there were lots so many answers they got it. The way they were reading in a textbook about the NCRT or any other website like UNICEF, UNESCO, but when they visit those websites, they can just find it out how they are really doing they are working on a grassroots level for the education. So if we are talking about a NUPA, even what policies they are framing within that 1.5 year, what the policy they are framing on an online mode. So through that simulation on the virtual visits, the student started interacting personally with that institution. Along with that, not only the interaction, if they have any question, they are putting the question on the that website, and they are getting few answers for that. So that way, that simulation really help, and that's a experience we are just had in this year. I hope you even can try with your student, and we don't want to do much thing. We just give the link of that website to the student and give the few questions, reflective kind of questions, few questions, and what exactly we have to see when we are visiting some website. What are the things we need to keep in our mind when we are visiting? So when we are giving that way direction, definitely we whatever the activity we are doing, we will get a success in that. So need a proper planning, like the first part. Yeah.
Any other question? I think there are no other queries, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Ma'am, it was a very wonderful session and was highly informative also. And I would like to invite any participants to give feedback on this session. That will be helping ma'am also,
Yeah.
and to propose vote of thanks. Anybody can come forward. Any participant, you may please come forward and give your genuine feedback.
It's like a classroom.
No, no, ma'am. Actually, they are very active. Please. Okay, no issues. I hope everyone got benefited out of this session, and I wish to express my heartfelt thanks to ma'am for accepting our invitation to be a resource person and delivering a wonderful session by which everybody has got benefited. Thank you, ma'am. And I hopefully will be collaborating in the days to come also. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity and giving me opportunity to interact with this participants. Thank you so much. Thank you, complete organization team for that. Thank you so much and have a wonderful week ahead. Enjoy
you.
and take care. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.